We are live with Gordon Stein talking more about the Cashflow Cookbook and what he's doing. Want to make sure that we introduce you all. I apologize for the delayed start, but I want to make sure that we understand what we're doing here today. We're going through and doing this rebound leadership and making sure that we all understand the importance of rebounding from any kind of adversity we have. So, Gordon, leave it to you. Go for it.
Well, one of the areas that a lot of people suffer from is their personal finances. In fact, American Psychiatry Institute tells us that it's our number one source of stress. And when we talk about bouncing back, a lot of people are trying to bounce back from difficult leadership situations, but often their finances are weighing on them, not only weighing on the leaders themselves, but laying on these stresses are stacked up on their employees. So I'm here to help with that. I think it's a key area.
Okay. I love it. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. What do you see your role in all this?
Well, I wrote a book called Cashflow Cookbook. I stumbled into a way to save some money on car washes of all things that sparked the idea. And the whole plan was, hey, what are the ideas that the average person can use that free up cash flow, but involve minimal effort, minimal sacrifice? Because often the mantra is, hey, you have to give up things, you have to budget carefully. It's always in this scarcity mentality. And what I discovered as I started to write Cashflow Cookbook and the 2 years of research I put into it is there's a whole host of ideas that are minimal effort, minimal sacrifice that can free up material amounts of cash flow. And in so doing, let's relieve that financial stress. Let's focus on our higher purpose. Let's focus on our work. Let's focus on our leisure. Focus on our families.
Wow. And give me a couple of those ideas that you have.
Well, in the book, I go through 6 major areas of spend. So housing, transportation, food, household, lifestyle, and financial. So each of those areas, I've got 10 financial recipes, as I call them, staying with the Cashflow Cookbook title.
Gotcha.
And they free up anywhere from $25 a month to several $100s a month. So I give you a couple of examples. And some of them are quite stealthy. They're not the usual things of, give up this, eat out at restaurants less, give up your latte, all this nonsense, because all those things are fun. Let's do things that don't change our lifestyle at all, that are easy but make a big difference. So here's one example. Taking a look at our credit score. So often people, they have no idea what their credit score is. It sounds like a boring thing, a credit score. Can we get on to something more exciting? Here's what's exciting about credit scores. They can swing the total interest cost of a loan by 70%.
Really?
They can swing the cost of car insurance and home insurance by 30 to 50% each. Not to mention they're often used as a screening tool in getting jobs. So the lowly credit score, as boring though it may be, is impacting all of these things. So we could have a situation, Brian, where you and I have identical situations. We've purchased homes for the identical amount, car insurance, home insurance. I might be spending $1,000 more than you because there's errors on my credit report. And I would have no idea. So that's the kind of thing that Cashflow Cookbook's about. Hey, what are the things that we can go in, make simple changes that have a huge impact on our monthly spend?
Wow. So you're first look from a credit score perspective. You first look at what your credit score is, look at your report and seeing what's on there. Is that what you do?
Yeah, and again, this is just one recipe of 60. But yeah, step one is to know what your credit score is. So it could be, very low. It might be in the 400s or the 500s. It might be really high. It might be in the 800s. They go up to 850. And so understanding what's in there and very, very, very common is errors in your credit score. They may have credit cards that you got rid of months or even years ago, and those are still counting against you on your credit score. They could have debts that are long since resolved that they show as outstanding. So they're not compensated on having an accurate credit score. They're compensated on having a credit score, and they share that information with vendors.
Right. Huh. Interesting. Interesting. So, Gordon, you've done a lot. You've obviously researched a lot. How have you been able to do all that?
Well, it just like I say, it's out of interest. I see so many people suffering with their finances. It's massive. In fact, 85% of people, of Americans, are so stressed out about their finances it actually impacts their work.
Mm-hmm.
That's how powerful this problem is. Of the people who get divorced, 41% attribute those divorces to financial stress. So I thought, what a wonderful way to help people. I've always been interested in personal finance, did the research, wrote the book, and now I speak on the book full time. So speaking with employee groups, how to free up more cash flow. And my signature keynote is 0 to 1 million in 60 minutes.
0 to 1 million. So tell me about that. What's that mean?
Well, it means that in a 60-minute talk, and I've done it in as little as an 8-minute talk, I can show people exactly how to free up an incremental $1 million of wealth at retirement.
Hmm.
But the key is minimal effort, minimal sacrifice, and no incremental risk. So that's really what the whole concept, the book, and the speaking are all about.
Interesting. I love this. So you've got a lot going on. You're a busy guy, and you speak a lot. Um, what would you say is something that is an obstacle or something you still see as an obstacle that's holding you up?
It's holding me up.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I mean, just getting more and more efficient in the day. Every day the key question is, what's the most important thing I could be doing? Um,
Mm-hmm.
do I do a revised edition of the Canadian book? I have new ideas all the time. Revised edition of the US book. Do I do outreach to meet more people? Which speaking offers can I accept? Which ones am I going to have to turn down? Podcasts. There's so many things that a person could be doing in a day. I think this business of optimizing your time is really critical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and knowing where to spend your time, that's important. Uh,
Yeah.
so, who helps you to see your blind spots? You must have things that are lurking out there. Obviously, the obstacles, but I mean, who helps you to see your blind spots?
I think it's a really important concept because it's one of these things you don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So, as an example, as a speaker, maybe I'm focusing on a market that might be my third best market. So, is there a yet better market that I should be speaking on? And I think the other thing in any field of endeavor, I think it's so important to do some benchmarking, to get feedback, to try and, you know, understand those blind spots and address them as best as you can. So, as an example, every time I speak, I make sure that I've got at least one person in the audience. And what I want to know from them at the end of my talk is give me the 3 things to do better. Give me the 3 things that you love.
Mm-hmm.
So I've combined those ideas over and over again in the hope of becoming a better and better speaker as each year goes by. I can give you a couple of examples if you're interested.
Yeah.
Well, one that was quite interesting is I recorded one of my talks. I was out in Pasadena, California. And so I did a dry run and I watched it on video. This is a pretty formal stage and cameras and everything. I watched it on video and we were fast forwarding through the tape. And what I noticed is that my arms stayed in the same spot all the time. I used the same hand gestures. I was basically going like this the whole time through the talk. So when I watched up the speeded up video, my arms were going like this. It was going like this all the time. But what am I doing? I'm not using my body in the talk. I like my words. I like my tone, but my body wasn't anywhere. So one of the things I gleaned from that is, I'll use positions on the stage to indicate time. So from the audience view, if I want to go back in time, I go to their left because most people think of that as earlier, which of course is my right.
Yeah.
And then present time is in the middle. And then I might step over to the other side of the stage to talk about what might happen in the future. So now the audience can see my body indicating time. It can indicate concern. I can use gesturing. I can change my whole body posture. Sometimes I ask, what percentage of my audience is joyful about their finances? And I'm up here with my body.
Mm-hmm.
Who's lightly concerned? Who's my lightly terrified people? And I go right down to a ball on the stage for the people who are full ostrich. They really don't want to hear about their finances.
Yeah.
So that one chance of being able to see something that I couldn't see, what was happening with my body, was hugely important to improve my speaking.
You saw that yourself. But what are some of the instances where you've had other people see things for you?
Well, in my case, I've got a hearing disability, so I need people to hear things for me sometimes. So when audiences have questions, I'll often have someone up on stage with me to relay the question to me. So it isn't just, blind spots visually, it could be auditory blind spots where we're not hearing things as well, and we're missing important cues. But I think one of the biggest things is on teams. When I was a leader in companies like Apple, um, it's so important to have a diverse team and a really sharp team. Never compromise on the hiring, because when you have those people, they're watching for blind spots in areas you didn't even know you had areas. So, somebody who comes from a different country, somebody who's working in a different industry, somebody who brings a different set of perspectives, older people, younger people, male, female, whatever the case may be, they can see things that you can't see, and makes a massive difference to the power of your team.
Yeah, so that's the whole DE&I aspect of what we do: diversity and equity, inclusion. I mean, it's the diverse side of things.
I think it's so important, and I maybe come at it a bit of a different way. Often people are looking at diversity for the sake of diversity. Do we have enough people of this color, and so on and so forth. I get that one. I think it's far more important because it's all completely aligned. Often when you have people who come from different countries, different industries, they're bringing different perspectives. So I like DEI, not just for the sake of DEI because it improves the overall performance of your team.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
That right there is probably the best way of looking at DI that I've heard in a long, long time. So thank you.
Yeah, I'll give you a quick example. It was interesting. I worked at a wireless company in Canada, one of the big ones, and we're doing some work on the supply chain. So you got to pick, pack, and ship all of these phones, and we're also a cable company, the modems and TV set-top boxes, and so on and so forth. So we did this massive overhaul of the supply chain. We invested millions of dollars in it for multi-million-dollar annual savings. And it was a really remarkable project, things that had never been looked at, blind spots. The company was missing tens of millions of dollars a year in costs. And so we assembled this team and we worked so hard on this thing, and the benefits were truly amazing. And we had one thing in common. All of the team members had one thing in common. They knew nothing about wireless supply chains. We had someone from the clothing industry. I knew some of my experiences in supply chains from computer companies like Dell. We had someone from the steel industry. And the most popular question that we asked was, people would say, but why even do that? And somebody would say, well, wireless, you have to do the do. They go, but why even do that? And so there's whole processes that we eliminated. And it was so exciting because it was such fresh thinking. And we completely changed the dynamic. And the key thing is, what drove that? The diversity. It wasn't because we were counting how many of each color we had and each, ethnicity or whatever, gender. It's because they brought diverse thought. And that's where diversity to me gets exciting, because it yielded these terrific results. People thinking about things from a different perspective, eliminating blind spots.
Yeah, oh, that's great. Well, let's bring us back to the Cashflow Cookbook.
Yeah.
How can we take what you've done from a diverse perspective and include that in our thinking of what we have for diversity, or what we have for cash flow?
Well, I think as we're speaking with some of your clients and colleagues who are employers, I think it's essential to think about financial wellness. So many companies think about wellness, and they've got their wheel where they're thinking about mental wellness and fitness and diet and all these things, stress reduction. They leave off our number one stress, which is our finances. So critical to help employees with your finances. So I speak on this kind of thing all the time. And rather than, a lot of companies will say, oh, we should do something in personal finances. They'll invite their bank out to come and talk, and someone from the bank talks about the Roth IRA limits for 2022. That's not where people have problems. They're not making their budgets balance in their home. They're not saving enough. We need to help them at the most fundamental level, freeing up more cash flow for saving and investment and paying down debt. Mm-hmm. So that's where I think the work that I do, helping companies with that, to help their employees with their number one stress, which is their finances. Whole set of ideas in Cashflow Cookbook. I've got programs to help organizations with this. But as employers, we need to get in tune with our employees. And you think about it from a Maslow's needs perspective. When we're stressing about, food and shelter and all the things that come from financial stress, it's very hard to do a great job, in your relationships, be a great employee, be a great partner, be a great parent, because those stresses are very, very powerful. So I think it's key to use resources like Cashflow Cookbook, help employees with their finances. And if you're listening as an individual and you're stressed out about your finances, you need to figure out ways to free up cash without adding yet more stress. Mm-hmm. So I would say those things are really, really important.
So here's the website for the Cashflow Cookbook, where you can get your book, and then the title of it is Cashflow Cookbook, as we've said. So want to make sure that you all understand that, whoever's on the line. By the way, if you're listening in and you want, tell us where you're coming in from and put a hashtag live. Also, if you're listening on replay, put a hashtag replay. We'd love to reach out to you after the fact, so we can always catch up. Anyway, so is that fair to say a good spot to get your book?
Well, I would say if you want to learn more, you can go to cashflowcookbook.com. The book is available on Amazon as both a Kindle edition and as a paperback. And there's 2 editions, so make sure you get the right one. There's a U.S. edition, which is going to be most of our listeners. There's also a Canadian edition, which addresses spelling, cultural references, mortgage rate calculations, and lots of terminology. And some of the recipes are a great fit in Canada, and others are much more suited to the U.S. So the 2 books are different in those respects.
Wow, that's great. I appreciate you being on. Appreciate you teaching us about the Cashflow Cookbook.
A real pleasure. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Hey, Gordon, if you don't mind hanging out in the green room until I close out the show, and I'll be right back.
Okay, that sounds great. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Gordon.
You bet.
Appreciate you. Woo! What a great show. Another great show. I love it. Gordon Stein is the man when it comes to understanding our cash flow. I can learn a lot from him. So there's a lot to be said for all that. I want to make sure that you all understand next week is going to be an off week. We have Labor Day here in the States. So we're going to be off for that, and I'll be in Denver, Colorado with my youngest son. He has moved to Denver about a month ago, and we'll be out there with him and just celebrating Labor Day, but also helping him get situated and get a couch for his apartment and all kinds of other stuff. So anyway, that's where we'll be on Labor Day next Monday. But if there's ever anything else that I can do for you, I hope you let me know. I'm looking forward to catching up with you all soon, and hopefully we'll see each other in another 2 weeks. Thanks a lot. Take care.